What's up, everybody? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel, and then follow me on social media on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter so you guys don't miss any of our content over the course of this season. All right, let's talk some basketball. All right, moving on to Sixers Nuggets. So, weird game because neither guy wanted to guard each other for until the very end in terms of Jokic and Embiid. I want to start on the defensive end of the floor, though, because really, I think if these two teams were to happen to meet in an NBA Finals series, they would go down guarding each other. They would. Keeping them off each other for the most part was very much a regular season innings eating type of thing. And what do you know? Push comes to shoves, tie game late. They both start guarding each other, right? But I want to start on the defensive end for Philly because the Sixers made the Nuggets do something last night that you don't see the Nuggets do very often. They made them rush, and they made them make mistakes. The Nuggets played 7.5 minutes, with Jokic on the fourth quarter last night and amounted a 62.5 offensive rating. About half where you'd like to see them be in that situation, right? Forced them into 5 turnovers in the fourth quarter. And it all comes down to, in my opinion, the job they did, specifically Patrick Beverley and Joel Embiid, guarding the Jokic-Murray actions 2-on-2. Really quickly on Patrick Beverley, just did an awesome job on Jamal Murray, specifically with back pressure. Early in the fourth quarter, he had a block on Jamal Murray, late clock situation where he kind of stripped him from behind. And that's one of those plays where it was a late clock situation too. Like Jamal probably misses that shot just because it's a really tough shot. But Pat makes an extra effort. And most importantly, it plants a seed up here. Plants a seed that says, you can't see me, but I'm right behind you. And I'm coming. I'm going to be swiping at the basketball. I'm going to be contesting your shot from behind. It gets in the ball handler's head. And what ended up happening is when Jamal was coming off those ball screens, he's typically a very methodical shot creator, right? He's typically a guy that's going to put you in jail, use his size, get to spots that are 15 feet away from the basket. But in his two-man game at the end of the game, he was just going downhill. The reason being, he's terrified that Patrick Beverley is coming from behind, right? Because he's just such a scrappy player with the way that he competes over the top of screens and can provide that rear view, that back pressure, right? And he ended up turning the ball over twice on these bounce passes where he's just going 100 miles an hour and just throwing a super quick bounce pass at the guy's knees. And I want to give Patrick Beverley credit for that because I just haven't seen many players kind of speed up Jamal Murray like that, especially in a high-profile game like that. And then on the Embiid front, one of the things he was doing in the fourth quarter that I thought was really, really smart was he was denying him his usual spots where he catches the ball. We talked about this when the Clippers played the Lakers a few weeks ago when LeBron did the same thing to Kawhi Leonard. A lot of these super strong players, they are really good at creating easy passing windows, right? If you asked me, and I'm a relatively big guy, if you asked me to try to deny Nikola Jokic the basketball, I would have no chance. I'd try to get in front of him, he'd just push down on my back, he'd create an easy over-the-top angle, right? Or he'd swim move around and create another angle. And I'm 230 pounds, right? He's just so damn big that he makes other big humans look small. But the thing is Joel Embiid's one of the few guys in the league who's actually big enough to contend with Jokic physically. And so he was able to get in front and make it so that there was no passing angle. When he was denying those entries, to the elbow or on the post, he basically threw the Nuggets offense off and they bailed out of those plays and tried to do other things. There was a play where Jokic was trying to catch the ball at the elbow. Embiid denies him. And so Reggie Jackson goes, oh shit, I got to do something. And he tries to drive downhill and ends up, and then Embiid, this is the crazy part about it, he would be able to deny Jokic and then recover to the rim. He denied Jokic at the elbow. Reggie decides to drive. He just swim moves off of Jokic, gets back and meets him at the rim. Blocks the shot or forces a really ugly miss. There was another one. He's fronting Jokic in the post, denies the post entry, ball gets worked around. Jokic runs up to the perimeter, and Embiid just makes an impromptu switch back onto Aaron Gordon. Patrick Beverley rotates back out to Michael Porter Jr., and then he's back at the rim. And that was the one of the ones where Jamal Murray ended up forcing one of those rushed bounce passes. Even though Jamal turned the corner, simply because Embiid was waiting at the rim again. So that concept of denying Jokic his normal touches and his normal spots on the floor, and then also getting back and protecting the rim, that literally just threw Denver's offense for a loop. And so again, we can talk about the offense, and we're going to, but like, to me, the end of that game came down to Joel Embiid, specifically with Patrick Beverley's help, just single-handedly throwing a giant wrench into Denver's offensive process. And that allowed the other three guys to kind of just like gap and recover, right? So like play kind of in that middle ground where they feel comfortable closing out to a shooter while also, digging down and kind of disrupting things inside. And again, held the Nuggets to a 62.5 offensive rating with Jokic on the floor over the final 7.5 minutes of the game. On the other end, continues to handle doubles really well. Another 10 assist night. That's his third time this year that he's had at least 10 assists. Last year, Joel Embiid had just 9 games with at least 7 assists. He already has 13 this year, just halfway through the year. Denver was doubling one pass away in a lot of Embiid's face-up situations, which we'll talk about in a minute because it's a strategy I don't necessarily agree with. But he was just taking what the defense was giving him, throwing those quick one-handed passes to the guy one pass away, and they were playing off of that. And then it really came down to the face-up game. He killed the Nuggets down the stretch with these like face-up jab step jumpers. It's a specific shot he's been making at a really high clip this year. He's 35 for 65, so well over 50% on face-up, no dribble jump shots this year. And like it just absolutely picked him apart at the end of the game. Was doing it to Aaron Gordon, was doing it to Nikola Jokic from 3. It was incredibly dominant. Had a big Euro step in transition around Nikola Jokic for a layup. It was just an unbelievably dominant game from Joel Embiid. And here's the thing. Like he said after the game to Nikola Jokic, and I appreciated this because it's a respect to the banner. You guys know here, shout out Logan Swaim, head of content here at The Volume. He calls me a loyalist of the banner. But like Embiid was being a loyalist to the banner. He goes, Jokic is the best player. And then he said something like, I'll see you in a couple of weeks, which was awesome. It's going to be exciting to see that matchup in Denver. But here's the thing. He's by far the best regular season player in the league. And it's not particularly close. There's nobody in the league right now impacting winning on a night-to-night basis the way that Joel Embiid is over the course of the 82. He is far and away the MVP frontrunner right now. The next step is go beat the allegations. He has a reputation of being a playoff underperformer. It's a combination of two things, in my opinion, injuries and his jump shot failing him. They probably are connected to some extent, right? And Sixers fans are constantly pointing that out, like, give him a healthy playoff run. He just hasn't really had a chance to show what he can do when he's healthy in that phase. And that may or may not be true, but that's the reputation. The allegations are that he's a playoff underperformer. Go beat them. Go show everybody that they're wrong. And everything will flip like that. Go show everyone that they're wrong. That's all he needs to do. And if it is as simple as him being injured, take care of yourself. Who cares about the MVP this year? Do what you got to do to make sure you're healthy in April. And then when he gets there, it's that jump shot. Because he's shooting extremely well on those jab step jumpers or the no dribble jumpers. But the jumper's basically where it was last year. Overall, last year, 0.97 points per Joel Embiid jump shot. This year, 0.98. So he's 1% better than he was last year. The difference is, last year, he went from 0.97 points per jump shot in the regular season down to 0.59 points per jump shot in the playoffs. This has been a consistent theme on Embiid's longer playoff runs. He doesn't shoot the jump shot as well as he did in the regular season, which becomes a cascading effect. Guys no longer have to stunt and deal with that shot, makes them be able to beat him to the spot better when he makes his post moves. It just causes things to fall apart for him offensively. And that's why he goes from looking like the MVP to looking like something significantly worse than that when he gets to that point. And again, injuries play a big role, but get there healthy, beat the allegations. That's the next step for Joel Embiid. I thought Tyrese Maxey had another big night for a high-profile game. I always want to keep an eye on these kinds of games for the young up-and-coming stars because they're reasonable facsimiles of what playoff games look like. He went for 25 points and 9 assists with just 1 turnover. Had a big driving layup to tie the game in the fourth quarter when they weren't matched up in transition. Good showing. And then Tobias Harris. The Nuggets without Nikola Jokic were making a little run there in the early fourth quarter. And Tobias Harris literally single-handedly kept the Sixers in the game just by attacking the smaller Nuggets players in the post and hitting little short jump shots and shots around the rim. That matchup attacking forward is such an important role in the NBA for that reason, because there are so many guys on these courts most of the time, especially in those like kind of bridge moments. So like end of the third, early fourth, end of the first, early second quarter, where there's like bench players on the floor. There's lots of these smaller players on the floor that you can attack if you have a matchup attacking forward that can get a high quality shot close to the rim or draw a double team and allow you to play out of that. I thought Tobias Harris did a really, really nice job of that in the early fourth quarter. On the Nuggets front, a lot of really uncharacteristic mistakes. That Reggie Jackson drive where he challenged Joel Embiid at the rim, there were 12 seconds on the shot clock. And when he missed it and fell on the floor, the Sixers ran out. That was when Embiid had the Euro step for the layup. And specifically, like, I think I saw what Reggie was thinking on that play. So think of it like this. If I'm in a drop coverage, I know even if I get off of the screen, if they're in a drop coverage, if I get off the screen, I know there's a guy waiting for me. But I think he saw Embiid denying and was like, oh shit, if I can get around this screen, Embiid's not at the rim, he's denying. So all I have to do is get over the top of the screen and then I'll be at the rim. Well, he underestimated, I think, Embiid's speed. And what was crazy is as he kind of turned the corner, Embiid was already there. And then he still decided to go into him with so much time on the shot clock. So I thought that was bad process. Reggie should have just pulled it out. Not to mention it ended in a switch and Tyrese Maxey was on Jokic. So he could have just, Jokic should have probably crashed there too, because he probably could have got offensive rebound putback. Or, that how Jamal Murray always does that thing where he kind of gets really deep into the lane and then just kind of floats it up in front of the rim and Jokic will go grab it and then shoot his little pop shot, right? So that was kind of a challenging possession. Jamal threw two really bad bounce passes on plays where Patrick Beverley was rushing him from behind. On the second one, it was the play where Embiid was denying Jokic in the post, and the ball got worked around and ended up in a Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon ball screen. But Joel Embiid made an impromptu switch back onto Aaron Gordon at the last second, and Patrick Beverley had to rotate out to Michael Porter Jr. There was like a 2-second window there where they ran to Jokic at the top of the key, and Michael Porter Jr. was wide open on the right wing, and Jamal Murray just missed him before he ran in and turned it over. Jokic transition possession, there was a play where Jamal Murray tried to back cut on, I think, Tyrese Maxey, and Jokic just threw a really bad bounce pass. First of all, the back cut wasn't open, and then he also threw a bad pass, and so it just went out of bounds. So that was sloppy. Again, 5 turnovers for the Nuggets in the fourth quarter. And then the defense wasn't very good. They had 2 possessions where they didn't get matched up in transition. The first one, I clipped both of these plays. I took this entire stretch run, by the way, and did a clip-by-clip analysis of it on my Twitter feed at _JasonLT, so you guys can find that there. But because I've had a lot of people in the comments say, hey, Jason, it'd be really nice if we had video underneath the clips. And this is what I'm going to say. I know that. I'd love to have that. Right now, we're not set up for that. That's just the reality. So my counter is every morning when I'm doing a film session, I catalog this, not every morning, but most of the mornings that I do a film session, I'm cataloging these plays in threads on the feed. And so there you can go to try to see some more visual examples of the things I'm talking about. I really hope and I believe that in the long run, we will be able to do that on the show. We're just not at that point right now. So I appreciate the feedback. I promise you guys it's something that I really want to do. It's just a question of logistics at this point, and we'll see when we get to that point. Anyway, though, you can see on this particular transition possession, you can see Jokic screaming to Reggie Jackson, go pick up Tyrese Maxey. What are you doing? Go pick him up. And he just didn't get there in time. Reggie Jackson or Tyrese Maxey just shot down the lane and got a right-handed layup. That was the one that Michael Porter Jr. goaltended. Then there was another one where this one was Jokic's fault. They're running out in transition. It was after the Reggie Jackson forced layup that he missed. Jokic in transition defense is supposed to run to the rim. Instead, he ran out to Patrick Beverley in the corner when no one was at the rim. And so then he had to sprint back into the play when he saw Embiid coming. And it was like a closeout situation in transition. It's just there's no chance. If he's waiting there, he can probably force Embiid to pull it out. He wasn't waiting there. He was sprinting there. That was when Embiid hit him with that Euro step and got to the basket. So 2 bad transition defense possessions led to easy layups. It just... Again, and then the jumpers you got to live with, but they were just sloppy on both ends of the floor. It was an uncharacteristic Nuggets performance. That said, I do want to credit the Sixers, because I thought they kind of played the Nuggets into those bad tendencies with really, really good defense, especially by Joel Embiid. Here's the reality. The Sixers are a little bit of a tough matchup for Denver. Embiid is big enough to challenge Jokic physically, like we mentioned earlier, in a way that most NBA centers aren't. There were only 2 possessions in the game where Jokic actually posted up Joel Embiid individually, and he got good looks on both. There was a up and under where he had a left-handed layup that he missed, and then there was a right-handed hook shot that he got that was relatively easily. So hard to say exactly how that matchup would look in a bigger picture at this phase of their careers because they didn't guard each other that much. That said, like, there's no doubt that Embiid does match up better with Jokic than most of the centers around the league. And then on the other end of the floor, there's just nobody on Denver that can guard Joel Embiid. But the question is, that doesn't matter if Philly's not good enough to get out of the Eastern Conference. Because right now, I would pick Boston and Milwaukee over Philly. So, like, yeah, it's a bad matchup for Denver, but unless Philly makes some sort of trade to provide some more perimeter talent, I just don't necessarily think they're good. Or unless Joel Embiid just goes transcendently great in the postseason, I don't necessarily see them making the finals, which puts them in a situation where Denver might not even have to see that specific matchup. And outside of that, there's just like, he doesn't have any problems with Anthony Davis. I mean, maybe we'll see if Anthony Davis can reverse that trend this year, but he doesn't have any problems with Anthony Davis, doesn't have any problems with any of these other centers out west. Embiid's the one guy who's kind of big enough to kind of challenge him in that sense. Hopefully we'll get to see more examples of them on each other one-on-one when they play in a couple of weeks. A playoff series would be fun to see between those two, wouldn't it? It would get nasty. I think they would end up guarding each other for the most part. That's a series I'd love to see. One other note with Denver, if there was one kind of crack in the armor that's worth calling attention to, it's Jokic's jump shot. Down the stretch of the game, Nikola had, I think, 2 wide open threes. There was at least one in the corner, one at the top, and then maybe one more. But like, he had some wide open looks, and he missed them both. And here's the thing. Last year in the regular season, a Jokic jumper was worth 1.17 points per shot. In the playoffs, it was worth 1.21 points per shot. And as I've talked so much about on the show, over-the-top shot making was a huge part of Denver winning. Like, the Lakers were in every single game of that Western Conference Finals, and then Jokic and Murray shot them out of it at the end. That was a big part of it. There's a highlight reel going around of Jokic just bombing crazy jumpers over the top on their way to winning the title. That was a big part of it. Wasn't the only part, so much more that Denver does well, but that is one of the things that helped them get over the top. This year, a Jokic jump shot is worth just 1.04 points per jump shot. That's in that like LeBron James territory, right? For the record, that's 17% down from where it was last year in the postseason. Not 17% shooting, but 17% relative to where it was last year, from 1.21 down to 1.04. That's roughly 17%, right? So there's a significant decline in Jokic's jump shot. And we saw that the year before last too. And so I would like to see Jokic have an extended stretch of hot shooting before the postseason, just to demonstrate that he still has that in his bag, because I do think it's a very, very important thing to kind of add to that margin of error that Denver has.